was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria, and I moved to England when I was 16, and I was there for about 5 years for educational purposes. And when I was there, I found it very interesting how I interacted with people cross-culturally. And it went beyond race. It was more of a thing of nationality for me, because even paying attention to how I interacted with other Africans, or like British Africans or British Caribbeans, and then maybe like my Polish friends and things like that. So I was very interested in our common ground between nationalities and cultures. So I began to study cultural theory, and I kept on being messed with these words, alien and a hybrid. And as a fan of science fiction and fantasy, it was just so interesting for me, because there's that intersection for those two terms where they're the biological connotations of being an alien or a hybrid, and the cultural connotations. So I kind of found my sweet spots in that intersection. My work depicts myself and other people mutating into these hybrids that exist in a nation, and they have their own laws, they have their own rule of the land, and the humans actually can gain access into this land, but instead of being the controlling race, they're immigrants, which then flips the whole position that we are in as people. For my hybrids, I combined the human form with cultural elements that I found integral to my consciousness as someone who grew up in Lagos. And so that's why I have those elements like the agama lizard's tail, or the palm trees, or the braids, and they're particularly black braids. I know braids go through cultures, but I feel like black braids, as a Lagosian, when you see the black braid, you think of expressions. And so yeah, I wanted those elements to be very Nigerian in a very simple, subtle way. I think it's very fitting that my first solo show is going to kind of introduce the world from the perspective of an immigrant human. So the works tell the story of humans and their roots into this world. And we see them swimming through the water to get there. And I felt like anyone who's talking about culture, you have to talk about water. Like, water is such an important symbol, because that's what lies between the lands a lot of the time. It's a natural border in itself, and that's where we kind of had those continental separations. So yeah, it has them swimming through the land, it has them walking through braids. There's this quote by Kwake Emezi where they say in Freshwater that the world in my head has been far more real than the world outside. And I just immediately loved that. So if this world is in my head, then it's only fitting that braids are embedded in the landscape. So we see that a lot where we have weeds that look like braids, and we have the cornrows that again play with language, where they're cornrows of braids, but they're also cornrows in a field. So yeah, we see them navigating their way into this world and meeting someone to guide them through. In this exhibition in particular, the two main clans or groups of people, I would say, that we meet are humans, who they look like us, they're familiar, and they are coming into this land, and they are met by an Umbanda and their spouse. So the Umbanda in my work their clan is identified by this mutation on their head where it forms the shape of a bishop's hat in the Catholic religion, and their spouse. So the spouse shown in this work is a human spouse, and when a human marries a hybrid, they have to take on an accessory that makes them assimilate visually. So they have the Bantu knots that connect into the bishop's hat as well. And I call them Umbanda because I have this family history of the whole Afro-Brazilian slave trade. My last name is still Brazilian Portuguese. And in Brazil, there is a religion called Umbanda, which is an amalgamation of African religion and Roman Catholicism. So I found it was very important to add that syncretism in terms of when we're talking about culture.
Come to your river, wash my soul. I will come to your river.